normal speaking voice anymore. I think my voice is changing. I don't understand why at my age my voice is changing, but it is. And it's changing for the better. Now, sometimes I talk, I have kind of a high pitched, squeaky speaking voice. I've heard amazing singers that talk like that. Not personally, but I've seen them on shows, and they have this high, squeaky voice. And then when they sing, they just belt it out and they sound amazing. My voice is starting to become something like that. I can scream at the top of my lungs in a singing style, I'll call it. It's not really screaming. It is screaming, but it's not screaming like you're afraid. It's screaming like it just fits for the song. Yeah, excuse me. I just woke up. It's 2:30 almost, and why do my eyes are all red? Not, I haven't smoked any weed yet. I'm completely I'm as low as I get with THC levels right now. I'm as low as I get. This is me as straight, as unstoned as I get ever, if I have my way about it, and I mostly do. The weed is not that expensive for me anymore because I get the medical discount, and I can combine that with sometimes a 50% discount at the store, at the weed store. So what I'm trying to say is I can walk into a weed store, and if I can find something I want that's 50% off, I can purchase that, of course, and then I add my Washington State medical marijuana discount, and that means no taxes for Mike. All the fees that they charge, the main reason that the state cares about the citizens, but they care more about money. Money to run the state, to pay their salaries, to build the roads, to do whatever the state does. They need money. And at one time, it was the lottery. I remember when the lottery was new. And I remember asking somebody who went on to be a senator, a female. She was a senator, a congresswoman, or something. But I'm going back a few years now. I'm talking about the early '80s, possibly late '70s, but I'm thinking early '80s when they first started the lotteries. Before that, nobody ever had a lottery in Washington State, probably in any state. You could go buy a lottery ticket. And you could go like you see in the movies where they have a numbers game or something like that. You could do something like that, but you couldn't go to the store, the 7-Eleven. Well, they only had one 7-Eleven that I ever knew of back then, but you couldn't do that. You couldn't do that. You couldn't buy a lottery ticket and then fantasize about what if you won. That's all you're buying when you buy a lottery ticket. You're buying, a few hours of where you can fantasize that what life would be like for you if you won. That's all you're gonna get out of a lottery ticket. You can stand in the middle of the street and hope that a bird hold your head up, open your mouth, and then hope that a seagull flies by and shits in your mouth. That's about the same odds you have of winning the lottery, you know? You might win a few bucks, you might win $1,000, but you aren't gonna win the real thing. Almost nobody wins the real thing, almost nobody. I could give you a million examples. The odds of me being able to give you a million examples why you're never gonna win the lottery are better than you winning the lottery. That's how bad the odds are. People still buy lottery tickets because I buy them, but I get pissed off because I sit and fantasize a little bit about all the things I would do with the money, and then, of course, I don't win, and then, reality hits me a little harder than maybe some people because it's easier for me to fantasize about being rich, winning the lottery, but it doesn't happen, and it's not going to happen. I got a better chance of a flying carpet dropping on the goddamn ground and me jumping on it and riding it like a skateboard up above the trees and over the valley and throwing a fishing line in the Green River and catching a steelhead from my flying carpet. Well, that might be the odds of winning the lottery might be better than that. Although, I could do that in a dream and then remember the dream. The odds of that are better than winning the lottery. The super the good one, the one that gives you billions, which you end up with millions, but that's a lot of money, but, after everybody takes their piece. I don't know. I forgot what the hell I was talking. Oh, I can barely talk because I just woke up. My eyes are all red. They'll be whiter. My all the area around my eyes will be whiter in a few hours, but the eyeballs themselves will be redder, I hope. Yeah, it'll happen. I got weed. I got really good weed. I got Khalifa Kush. Somebody had to tell me that that was Kid Khalifa owns that strain, or it's named after him at the very least. I didn't know that. It didn't make the connection. He probably sings about weed all the time or raps about weed all the time. I'm getting thumbs up. That is cool. Or have money. Yeah, that's great. People are watching me, some people. And I assume that a lot of people are watching me, because this video will stay posted on YouTube. If I'm on YouTube, I'm pretty sure. No, I could be on Facebook. I can't tell for sure. Oh, wait, I can figure it out. I can look and I can see I'm live. I can see how long I've been live. I can see how many people are actually watching right now. I think that's what that means. I can see how many thumbs ups I've gotten. I can see that there's top fans. They must be my top fans. That must mean that they've watched me a couple times as opposed to everybody else who's only watched me once. And I thank them for that. That makes them top fans in the ecosystem of Mike's YouTube channel. That's great. That's great. It feels wonderful to be talking to somebody who is a top fan of my YouTube channel. That is wonderful. I would put my glasses on so I can see your name and say it. No, I can see well, it tells me that there's 8 people watching. Okay, the reason that I had a wonderful time yesterday and last night. My brother Jerry, I tried to promote it a little bit, and there was a pretty good crowd, you know. They started out with a really good crowd. That's why sometimes it's more fun on a triple bill like that. It's more fun to be the first band. It's the most fun to be the second band. By the third band, all you got left is the people that came to see you. In other words, what I'm trying to say is when the first band plays, some people haven't showed up, but there's 3 bands, and each band has a following. And so when the first band starts, there's people from all 3 bands hanging out. When the second band starts, there's still people hanging out from the first band, but then the second 2 bands, all the people are pretty much there. By the time Riff Raff Seattle comes out, the headliner, but they're not really the headliner. They're just the last band playing in a triple bill. And my brother had a band he actually named headliner, Jerry. He called it JC Luckenbach and Headliner. Very cool name. Very cool name. And there's never been anybody that's used it. It's still a cool name. He should use it. He should fucking use it. He's got a song. He has an original song called Headliner. It's one of his best original songs. And he's got a bunch of them. A bunch of them. He could start dipping into original material. He wouldn't have to write anything new. He could just dig into some of his old shit and find songs that he forgot and do them. Or find songs that he did, but they weren't quite good enough for that time because he didn't have the equipment, he didn't have the money, he didn't have a sound engineer, he didn't have a singer. His singer passed away. His singer passed away, you know, when he was making his first band, when he was in his first band. He Yeah, he passed away. So he never had a singer after Joe passed away. He never really had a singer until Scott. Until Scott. And Scott is the most amazing singer that I've ever had the privilege to speak to. Bon Scott Gilcrease, that's his name. He told me his name last night, and now I remember it. Why do I remember it all of a sudden and I couldn't remember it before? You'd have to ask somebody who specializes in undiagnosed divergency to figure that one out. All right. Okay. Yeah, I had a wonderful time last night. I need to sip my weed. My weed. Where's my weed? I can't smoke my weed on camera. I know I could, but I'm not gonna do that. My brother might actually tell me I gotta take all his shit down if I did something like that. Yeah. Yeah, that's better. That's probably a little. You know why I do this? Really why I do this? Why I pick up my camera and start talking to it when I first wake up in the morning like that? Because I've always been the kind of person that was really worried about the way I look. You wouldn't know it by the actual way I did look or have looked, but I worry about that a lot, making sure my beard's just right if I got a beard, make sure I don't have nose hairs coming out of my nose. That's horrible. That's disgusting. But I don't care. If I have nose hairs coming out of my nose, I only notice them when I look at the camera. I can't see them right now because my it's blurry. I just wanted to say that I wanted to tell the story of El Cid. Yeah, El Cid, which is the most amazing karaoke place I ever went into, ever. I highly recommend this place if you can afford it. They're not even called El Cid. El Cid is just the name of the lounge. The the restaurant is called something else, and it wouldn't be hard to figure it out. It's 2 blocks from Tony V's garage, and I think it's called Pacific 134 or something like that. It's got a number in the name of it. It's in an old historic building. You know the kind of buildings, the ones that if you wanna put a restaurant in a building like that, you better have deep, deep pockets because it's not cheap to put something in a historic building. My goodness. It's quite possible that the people that own that owned it before it was a historic building, at least their family did, something like that, and they had already built everything pretty much, and then it was just a matter of getting the historical society to recognize their building. They already had all their stuff in there, something like that, because, I mean, you gotta have all kinds of regulations. Because an actually registered historic building, they don't want it messed with. They want it to be historic. They want it to be like it was and stay like it was. Anyways, I'm gonna badmouth their karaoke that happened to me, okay? I don't wanna disrespect this place that I didn't I mean, I walk up these stairs, and there's this beautiful room. I'm walking up beautiful stairs. It's just place is just beautiful. I've actually got like $100 in my pocket. I'm thinking, I don't want to spend my $100 on a drink. I don't even drink alcohol. But I walked in. They, it's there wasn't a sign or anything that I noticed that even said they were doing karaoke. I walked up the stairs and went into this other room, beautifully beautiful room. Everything in this place was beautiful. And he was a doorman. He was what I think of as a doorman, but there's probably another name for him, consigliere. I don't know. I don't know. But he was watching to make sure that nobody got past him. I'll tell you that. He was very, very nice, very nice. I walked in going, "Ooh, wow, I can't afford to buy a drink." I like to say something like, "Do I have to buy a $12 drink to get in here?" He was just so nice, so nice. So like anybody else that bothers to listen to me, I start jabbering. Oh, now I've only got one actual viewer, but that's okay. No, I got two. I'm not sure that means actual viewers, but I'm pretty sure it does. That's okay. Like I started to say before, I assume that I have a lot of viewers because this is going to be posted and stay posted indefinitely, unless I have to take it down because the algorithm tells me to or implies that it might not like it, then I'll take it down. I would just fucking delete it. If that cuss word upsets the algorithm, I won't try to edit out the cuss word. I'll just delete the whole thing. The whole thing, bam, it's gone. Tail lights, as my brother taught me that term. I can't remember how old I was, but he came back from Oregon, I think, and all of a sudden, he was always coming up with the terms. He always knew the latest terms, even in Middle Ages. He always knew the latest things to say because he had kids. So I learned all kinds of cool things to say from my older brother. I've never told him that before because he doesn't pay. It's hard to get his attention, and then when I do, he sits there and he listens to what I say, And then once I've said it, I kinda get the feeling that, "Okay, I got to say what I wanted to say," and then I leave him alone pretty much, or he tells me to leave him alone, or he tells me to leave his friends alone, or he tells me not to bother Tony, you know? I never thought about it much one way or the other, but it's possible that he's always kind of seen me as somebody who might be on the spectrum, if he even bothers to think about it that way. That used to bother me, now it doesn't bother me because I think he was probably right. Maybe my dad even told him, "Well, there's really something wrong with Mike. You gotta watch out for Mike." My dad might have told him something like that. He might have told Matt something like that too, but Matt thought, "Oh, I hate Mike. You take Mike to breakfast every fucking weekend, and I don't get to go to breakfast. You take Mike fishing all the time, and I don't get to go fishing. What did he do for you, Matt? He turned you into a pint-sized little muscle man, didn't he? If it wasn't for our father, you would not have been the pint-sized little muscle man you were in high school. Imagine that, Matt. Imagine being a little bit different, like your other two bloodline brothers. And no, Jim was embarrassed by all three of us growing up. He wasn't mean about it, but he was embarrassed by us. We weren't nothing like him, and he thought we were embarrassing. I'm sure he did. But especially probably his little brother. His little brother was Jerry. He looked after Jerry like you wouldn't believe. Jerry became complacent because he had Jim for an older brother. And if Jerry came home whining and crying because somebody took his pool cue or somebody threatened him, Jim would go over and break that fucking pool cue over their head. Say, "Don't fuck with my little brother." Something like that actually happened, almost probably word for word, but I was young. So I don't remember if he actually broke the pool cue over somebody's head or if somebody stole the pool cue and Jim just got it back for him. I don't know. We lived in a house, right? We bordered a housing development that was pretty sketchy for the 70s. Pretty sketchy. It wasn't like what you would call sketchy now. There wasn't, or then in different areas, there wasn't gunshots throughout the neighborhood at night. It wasn't like that. But it was very sketchy. Called it Lee Hill Homes. And it had a neighborhood amongst the rich people of being where all the poor people lived. And we didn't live in Lee Hill Homes. We bordered Lee Hill Homes. So we weren't that poor, but we weren't rich either. And so when I talked to people about where I lived, especially back in the 70s and 80s, and even today I'll say to somebody will start talking about that they grew up on Lee Hill or that they've lived on Lee Hill for 50 years or 60 years or more. I'll say, "Well, I live over by Green River College." The you know, and I always expect then I wanna make sure, but I don't live in Lee Hill Homes, because that was where all the poor people lived, poor white people. I don't remember any African Americans. It wasn't that they weren't welcomed, there just weren't any in our area. There weren't it was much more of a white demographic, and, the few I only remember one African American in my junior high school, and he was special. He was treated special because growing up amongst he talked and acted, and his values were pretty much the same as his parents and all the people he grew up around. I can't remember this guy's name. I don't even he probably wasn't even friends with me because kids didn't like me in junior high school. I was a little too different. I thought it was because I was fat. Up until very recently, I thought it was because I was fat. Then I was talking to somebody who was telling me about he was picked on because he was small. And somebody else, he was picked on because he was skinny. So it wasn't that I was fat because kids get picked on for anything, anything. "Oh, my nose is funny. I wear horn-rimmed glasses." It doesn't matter to the other kids. They're gonna pick on the one that is the most vulnerable. And unfortunately, there was a really, really messed up girl who's probably some beautiful she was, now she's my age. Oh, anyways, okay, now I've gone on for quite a long time, and I hope now I have 3 people come in and out. Uh, that's great. I'm gonna put on my glasses. I wanna see the names of you guys that are actually here looking at me. I know that's what you're supposed to do if you really wanna engage people. Okay. You guys put your names together, you probably don't have no choice. I'm gonna say Anika Thnila, and Irish Cream, Christina, Coop Risley. Okay, there's a few of you. And Anika is right now number 1. I don't wanna do a Q&A sticker right now. I don't wanna do that, I'm done. But I wanna see your names. If you guys have stayed long enough to listen to me, thank you. I'm gonna go viral, it's just a matter of time, and you guys are the first ones to watch me, and I'll look back on that and I'll remember it, you know? I gotta go, though. The reason I just get up and do this, and I know my teeth are all messed up, and I know I got hairs growing out my nose, and I know my it's because I don't care anymore. I just don't care anymore, and that's wonderful. It's fucking wonderful. This will make it taken down, so you guys now I have 1 actual viewer at the moment, but I'm not sure, I may be reading that wrong. Now I have 0. Damn. I said your name and you still left? Okay, I gotta go. Thank you for watching. Whether you're watching it live or you watch it, whatever, thank you. And did I tell you my little brother is a fucked up piece of shit? Oops. It'll get worse, Matt. It'll get much, much worse. I will gain celebrity, and I'll make you famous too. Okay. Goodbye, everybody.